Hi everyone, I'm Camila Mucci, part of the Avenue Call team, and welcome to the Diamond Podcast, where we explore the connection between technology, leadership, and human growth. And today I'm super happy to have here with me Zahra Hirji, a leadership advisor and a people strategist who helps tech organizations design systems that truly scale human potential. With more than 20 years of experience across startups, global tech, and fintech, Zara brings a wealth of insight into how leaders can build more human-centered, adaptive organizations in the age of AI. So thank you so much for accepting this conversation with me today, Zara, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay. So let's start. Zara, as companies are bringing more AI and automation into their workflows, we keep hearing about scaling humans. Mm-hmm. What does that really mean to you?
Yes, it's a really important and really pertinent question that we're all dealing with right now. So, when I think about scaling humans, it's a combination of bringing the best of people as well as the technology. So we think about the strengths of people, which, we really can think about creativity, we can think about judgment, we can think about building of relationships and connection, and ultimately in organizations, that means supporting the culture. Those are things that people really have strengths around. Whereas when we think about AI, we really want to be thinking about how can we scale, how can we have speed, how we can process large data of information, and bringing those two together really, truly allows us to achieve the best impacts. So, I've spent the last at least decade within HR and particularly HR and tech. And when I think about that, and even in the past few years, I've seen how freeing that is when I've seen many different employees really use technology to reduce the low repetitive tasks, to think of some of the operational low lift work and use technology to solve for that so that they can optimize themselves in their work. And ultimately, it's them being able to then focus on innovation, mentoring teams, building their teams effectively, and really helping to shape the true culture. So it's not just a concept of replacing humans with technology, more about augmenting the two and supporting the organization with the best of both worlds.
Wow, love that. Really, really like that. Okay, so massive layoffs that we keep seeing on the news lately, and which are often tied to AI or restructuring. And from your perspective, what can leaders do differently related to this?
It's all over the news. We're seeing massive layoffs globally, and a lot of people, employees are getting impacted. And we're in a time truly in the heart of a number of different changes in the world. There's the rapid rise of AI. There are global shifts that are happening. There's geopolitical headwinds that we're all facing. And so when I think about that, it's not really just a tech story that we're talking about. It's really a human workforce story. And so from my perspective, if we think about leaders doing things differently, there's, I think, three things that really I'm thinking about on top of my mind are really, first, if I were sort of thinking about it as an individual and sharing some advice perhaps for them, it's really sharply focus on what you already know you're good at. So like pull towards those strengths. And, there's so much noise about layoffs and things that are happening in the world, but if you can really build a self-awareness, create that a sort of self-knowledge and say, you know what, just as an individual, what value can I bring? What's the value creation that I can have? That alone starts to figure out that's your unique value. That's the proposition that you're bringing. And if you can free up the time to really focus on the things that you can bring forward to an organization, thinking about your creativity, your innovation, you're building up relationships, judgment, the things that make you unique to you as a human. That's the first thing I'd say. Focus on those things and keep focusing on ensuring you are strengthening those capabilities. The other thing I'd say is AI technology. I mean, it's pervasive. We are seeing it through every organization and the amount of money that is being fed into organizations. So we really need to pay attention to that. So as humans, not only do we need to think about how our strengths can add value to the organization and create that value, but then what do we need to upskill and adapt around? So that's the second thing. I'd say, you know, what are the tools that are evolving around you that you can say, I'm going to pick this one or two things that are going to really help me accelerate the impact of the work that I do. Find those technologies and upskill yourself around those technologies. And in fact, I was just listening to a podcast recently. Kathy Wood from ARC Investments was talking a little bit about, you know, we're not going to be looking at industries as necessarily the way that we think about investments, for instance. But really, now she's starting to think about, or she's been talking a lot about, focusing on 5 technology platforms. And so reshaping the way that we think about that is really interesting. And it really started making me think about it. You know, yes, of course, we think about artificial intelligence, AI, it's all over. There's others. There's robotics, there's energy storage, there's genomics, DNA sequencing, and there's blockchain. We're starting to think about technology in different ways and finding out how you can add value from a human-centric way, as well as how you can adapt and upskill your knowledge, and figuring out where in those tools and where in that technology you really need to play and how you need to focus on those two together. That's really powerful. So think about that as an individual, think about that for your team, and then also think about that as your role as a leader within an organization shaping the culture. And if you can get all of those things sort of refined in your mind, that's going to help you as a leader to do things differently.
Wow, perfect. Love that. Well, now I think it's actually a very good connection to my third question, which is related to leadership and how it is different nowadays. And if you think about that, it's not just about being tech savvy, but also people centered, like you have mentioned. And how do you think that leadership models need to evolve in this human plus AI era?
This is such an important question, and I'm glad you're raising it, because I think that a lot of leaders, I coach a number of different leaders around the world, and there's so much interest in rethinking, how do I need to lead? And what does that look like for the future? How do I do that now? So, the thing that I would say is that the future of leadership, the way I see it, and from all of these conversations with different leaders, it's not really choosing one or the other, but it's about figuring out how to use technology and master the people side as well. So it's the combination of the two, which we've talked about. But looking at it through the whole system of the organization. And no doubt, leaders have always faced a number of different pressures, but the pressures are pretty high right now. Huge pressures on competitive markets, about the expectations, how to be technically fluent, understanding all the technologies, whether it's AI or data or systems, but the combination of that with human touch, which is building psychological safety and trust, being able to coach and foster environments where you're really truly listening to the people, the employees, your directs around you. That's the power of those two things need to be so critical in the way that leaders look at how they operate today. And then if I think about the model aspect that you asked, it's really about sense making of all of this and bringing the culture and the systems together just as much as the strategy. And one of the things that's going to, at least I feel, be much more and centered to leadership is the aspect of ethical leadership. In this world that we're moving towards, having a an understanding of what ethical leadership looks like, combined with a leader who is self-aware, self-reflective, has empathy, can build that upskilling of that technical capability and create that high-performing, resilient organization or team. Those are the organizations and teams that are going to thrive for the future.
Wow, perfect. Okay, and last but not least, what piece of advice would you give to leaders and organizations that are trying to navigate this AI disruption, but while keeping people at the heart of their strategy?
Yeah. When you're a leader, or whether you're a founder or you're an executive or you're leading a large team or you're a head of a function, the talent question is the burning question that you should be asking yourself constantly. The technology is going to play around us. It's going to evolve. It's going to change as the ecosystem of an organization will also be changing. But if I were to give advice from a human-centered place, the things that I would say, and keeping this at the heart of your strategy or the way that you approach the talent, is really, one, find that top talent. Who is the right talent to get you from where you are today to where you need to be? And how do you create that value and immediate impact? And really understanding when you have the right people on the right team, bringing them on is one thing. So making sure you've got the right talent and then nurturing that talent. So understanding their drivers, understanding their strengths, understanding their aspirations, what motivates them, where are they today that they really want to grow into for the future, and really understanding the why of these individuals, so that really when we're thinking about it, we really are customizing individual experiences as career paths for the people that we are supporting and nurturing and growing. So that's one of the things that I'd say, find the top talent. And I even went into the second one without intending, but it's really about nurturing that talent, right?
Yeah.
So it's essentially thinking about what the stakes are. Where is your top talent? What is it that is going to motivate, excite them, engage them, and retain them in the organization that you're working? A lot of the time we hear this more and more. And, you know, I think it's the last stat I'd heard is like 80% of people stay for their leaders. I don't know if there's more new data around that, but, you know, there is some data that I found that I'd love to share today, which is like, these are things that are very critical right at this time. Gartner, for instance, said that 56% of C-suite leaders are saying that they are likely or extremely likely to leave their current role within the next 2 years. Well, if that's the case and you don't have the right talent and you don't have the right people in the right seats, that is going to be a significant challenge for organizations to think through. That's about half. That's a significant number. I heard that and I read it and I said to myself, wow, like that is something that is going to be very challenging. And it's just in front of us. That's just around the next 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one to navigate. So thinking about that. And the other part of that, McKinsey report put something together that says roughly 40% of workers globally are thinking about leaving their jobs in the next 3 to 6 months. Like that alone gives me shivers, because you think about the amount of change that's happening, and then you think about the amount of movement that's going to be happening across. And it's because of the skill gaps. It's because of the change of roles. It's because everything is shifting differently. And so then the third thing that I would say is, based on that, when you're thinking about all of this, you need to engage and retain your talent. And what that really truly means, if I think about it from that human-centered place, it's prioritizing people development. And we need to think about that, because we need to think about, if we are onboarding and the cost of hiring is so significant. So if you are not spending time in engaging and developing your talent, and you're not spending enough time retaining that talent,
yeah, exactly,
you are actually not supporting the organization. You're not supporting the culture. You're not supporting the shifts that are happening. So retaining the talent, engaging that talent, and ensuring that you meet them where they are at, so that they themselves figure out what the change is or what the upskilling is that they need, so that they feel motivated in their jobs, or that they have the mobility to move within the company and do internal talent opportunities. So whether it's a rotation or whether it's a new role that comes up, getting an opportunity to really think about the talent that's within and focus on how you can best utilize that talent. So workforce planning is going to be a big part of the world of HR, and using that as an aspect of really ensuring that the talent that has been developed within the organization and that knowledge system remains there.
Wow. Inspiring. I love that, retaining the talents. And definitely that's the most challenging part for all organizations. Zahra, I have no words. It was such an inspiring conversation we had. And I really appreciate your participation in our Diamond podcast. So thank you so much. And thank you for those who have enjoyed this lovely conversation. So that's it for today.
Thanks, Camilla. Take care.